I wanted to talk about how important it is to be upfront and honest. If you don't want to do something, or if you want to change directions, just be upfront. Don't tell soft lies. Don't be a person who, kind of is going to say, "Oh, look, I'm super busy." Well, when really you're not busy. You just want to excuse yourself, and you want an excuse. Master the art of the exit. And what that means is, if you want to make your way to the door because you're tired of being at that event, then just say, "I'll talk to you later. I'm going to head out right now." You don't have to give people an explanation, a play-by-play of why. You don't have to act like you're a child in school begging for permission to go to the bathroom. Put your hand up and then wait to see if somebody will let you go. Like, you're a grown-up, so go do what you need to do. And maybe you don't need to do anything. Maybe you just want to do something different right now. So you make a point to say, "I'm going to go do something different," and then you go do something different. Like, people are not going to have a problem with you being honest. And if they do, that's their problem, not yours. So make a point to remember that. I was thinking about it today because one of my neighbors came and knocked on the door and invited me to come outside because he and one of the other neighbors were sitting out there on the deck having a beer. And so I came out. That's nice. No trouble. Sometimes I would be in the mood to sit there for an hour or two and just bullshit with them. But right now I didn't feel like doing it. I wanted to go back and eat the tater tots I put in the oven and see if I could, continue playing the computer game I was planning to play this afternoon. I wasn't doing anything important. I wasn't doing anything that was, a reason why I couldn't take time to go outside and hang out. I totally could have hung out for a few hours and it wouldn't have been a big deal. I just wasn't in the mood for it right then. Now, I did come out and I did hang out for a few minutes, but I didn't want it to be an all afternoon thing. So after 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something, I excused myself and said, I'm gonna excuse myself and I'll talk to you guys later. And it's not a big thing. It's not awkward. It's just is what it is. I want to go do something else now. And I think it's important to understand that you don't need to give an explanation for why you do every single thing you do. Like, sometimes it's good to just remember that you have free agency and that's your business. So don't act like you have to explain why you're doing every single thing you're doing to people who you really are not accountable to. And don't make the mistake of telling soft lies either, just because you lack confidence to be honest and transparent. If you are going to change directions, then just change directions. It's just that simple, but it's so easy to want to kind of come up with some sort of a narrative to make excuses or to tell soft lies or to say something like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so busy." No, you're not busy. You're just lacking enough basic emotional intelligence to tell somebody the truth, which is, "I don't want to do that." Like, it's just that simple. Just say, "I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do it." Right? But we would rather say, "Oh, I'm busy. You wouldn't believe all the stuff I have to do. I got to follow up on this stuff. I got a phone call," right? Like, I always remember when my old boss, we're in the car together and he gets a phone call from one of his acquaintances and she's talking to him. And then he says, "Oh, I got to go. I looks like I have another call." Only thing is, he didn't have another call. He's just lying to her because he wanted to get off the phone and he didn't want to say, "I don't want to talk to you anymore." So he would rather tell a lie, which, I guess people like to say, well, it's not a bad lie. It's just a white lie, right? I guess so. but it's not good, right? It's not good when you have the attitude that honesty is not something you have to practice all the time, right? So just be upfront. Be upfront with who you are and what you want to do, and don't be a person who is always coming up with excuses. Just tell the truth, you know. If you want to do something, then do it. If you don't, you don't. It's like that Bible verse says, let your yea be yea, let your nay be nay. Be upfront. Be a straight shooter. Be a person who exactly is comfortable saying where you stand on something. And that does not mean that you have to explain play by play every single thing that you are doing, or why you have the position you have, or any of that. Like, sometimes you just say no because you don't feel like it. Like, that is the reason. It has nothing to do with whether you can or you can't. It's just, I'm not interested in that because I think it's boring right now. Okay. Well, there you have it, right? Like, it's not rocket science. It's not anything big and hard to do. And when you're upfront about how you feel about things, then people know they can trust you, because if you do choose to be part of something, people understand you're there because you chose to be there. If you're doing something, people know you are doing it because of your own personal volition. Like, you're not, just going along with something. You're choosing mindfully to do what you want to do with your time and with your life. So that's just something that was a little bit on my mind, just because it seems like a pretty common theme in life. We like to overthink things and then feel like we don't have courage to have a little bit of basic friction in our engagements with others. So we are more likely to do things like saying, oh yes, I would love to go do something and hang out with you on Friday night. And then maybe we do it, and then we're thinking, oh my goodness, that's frustrating to me because I didn't really want to go, but I didn't say no. Or we get out of something by making an excuse, like saying, I have a phone call, or I have homework I need to do, or I have a business project I need to complete, or whatever it might be. Like, always something, right? So, like, it's easier to just lie about how busy you are than it is to say, no, I don't want to do that. And then we start to be fickle. And then you start doing things like ghosting people and having that tendency to be really friendly to people to their face, but then behind their back, you're, not really as interested in, having their best interest at heart, because, like, when you see somebody, then you're going to be nice to them until the minute they walk around the corner, and then you're going to ghost them because it's easier to, ignore a text message and then say down the road, oh, I was so busy, you wouldn't believe all the things I had going on. No, you weren't really busy. You just lack the emotional intelligence and the courage to say, I don't want to do that right now, or I am not interested, or whatever it might be. And when we aren't upfront about our intentions, about where we stand, then people misinterpret the signals, because we're not really sending any signals. We're withholding a willingness to be transparent. And then when people misinterpret the signals, we act like we somehow are victims, and that's not true. We aren't victims when we refuse to be upfront and honest about what our expectations are for life or for others. So live your life on your terms. And to that effect, it was actually the same neighbor who gave me a movie to watch out of his collection, and I watched it today. Into the Wild. It really is a good movie. I would recommend it to people who maybe like a movie that makes you think, or a movie that encourages you to focus on the concept of going off on an adventure or escaping the things of the world. It's about this man who, he was a young man named Christopher McCandless, and he went on a journey. His family was a broken home, middle-class household, but not a good environment, abusive father, stuff like that. So he decided to disavow all earthly things, pretty much, and he became a nomad, and he wandered around the western United States, hitchhiking his way, till eventually, after a couple years of it, he made his way to Alaska. And he lived in the wilderness. And then he died eventually. He died of exposure, unfortunately. Exposure to the elements, exposure to hunger. And it was a tragic story because he was a young man who was desperate to escape something that was taking a toll on his soul. Before he went on his Alaska journey, he said, after 2 rambling years comes a final and greatest adventure, the climactic battle to kill the false being within, to victoriously conclude the spiritual revolution. I thought about my own life experiences. I thought about leaving behind the life that I used to live and moving to a new place. I thought about the liberty that comes from not living my life on someone else's terms and truly having a sense that the life I'm living is a life I chose and not a life I inherited. And I thought about this sort of a hunger I've had to always cling to things that give me a sense of freedom. You know, this gentleman went off into Alaska to live off the land and to give up his money, give up his possessions, and escape the things of what seemed to be an evil world. And yet, we all experience that on some level. We have a sense that we're meant for freedom, and we're living in a world that doesn't really give us freedom. It's so easy to get caught up in someone else's scheme. So easy to feel like we're just cogs in a machine. And even when we do try to emancipate ourselves, when we try to get away and do something new, it's only a matter of time until we find some reincarnation of those old toxic things weaseling its way back into our ethos. It's like if you tried to escape your grindy, toxic job by going home and playing your favorite video game, only to realize that your video game is a grindy, toxic, pay-to-win scheme that wants to make sure you're logging in every day to do your dailies. And then, before you know it, what started off as a sense of escape wound up becoming another one of those things that kind of feels like a job. Because you're still thinking that you need to be more than what you are, and you need to keep up with other players' gear score, and you've got to do all the things that you need to do in order to get caught up with whatever content is out. That's why, personally, I've found myself gravitating toward all of those open-ended game experiences where I can log in and play, and I don't have any objectives. I don't have anything I really need to do today. There's nothing that makes me think I need to accomplish the next thing on the list in order to have a good experience. It's just the freedom of doing pretty much nothing for no reason and being passively connected to a community of other people while I do it. Life is filled with things that are limiting, and the joy of life is finding a way to be free from all of those things which define us by yesterday and tomorrow, so that we can truly make the most of this moment that we have right now. And a big part of that is authenticity. Like I was saying, let your yes be a yes. Let your no be a no. Don't feel like you have to change your path just because maybe somebody else has expectations of what they think you ought to do. As much as other people act like they have expectations, the truth is people will respect boundaries if you establish them right from the beginning. People will respect transparency if you tell them how you feel, but they won't know if you don't say anything or if you just go with the flow. But going back to the story of that young man who went off on a journey to Alaska and perished, I also thought about how he must have felt, desperately trying to escape something. So desperately, in fact, that he was willing to give up all of his comfort, give up his life, in search of this spiritual freedom. In the movie Into the Wild, he says, quoting Henry David Thoreau, rather than love, than money, than fame, than fairness, give me truth. It was that poet who said, I sat at a table where rich food and wine in abundance and obsequious attendance, but sincerity and truth were not. And I went away hungry from the inhospitable board. You can be surrounded by things that are symbols of wealth or success or comfort, and you can feel pitifully alone. You can feel empty inside, empty and spiritually bankrupt, even though you have a lot of the trappings of success. There's a lot of people in the world like that. And that's why the experience of divesting yourself of the things of the world so that you can just go out into a natural state of being without expecting. That's the beauty of life. Maybe it's going for a long walk without actually intending to go anywhere at all, just going because you want to be walking for the sake of walking. Maybe it's loading into a game like the one I'm playing right now, just exploring and being free to do whatever without any sense that I need to do anything specific at all. It's in that open space. Somebody said, it's crazy how often you get really good ideas when you're getting out of the shower. There's something about it, isn't there? Like you get up in the morning and you make the cup of coffee and you jump in the shower, you're doing your thing, and then you start getting these great ideas. That's why I always like to keep a journal, because you never know when they're going to come. But that's another topic. It's in that moment, though, when you're not really doing anything strenuous, you're not doing anything other than just kind of engaging in a sort of a passive activity. Passive, but also concerted, all at the same time. Then you start to get these ideas. You start to feel alive. You start to feel motivated and engaged. And you can only do that if you're able to disconnect from all of the things that would be distracting. You can't have those kinds of thoughts when you're constantly thinking about what other people are thinking, or what other people are expecting, or what your calendar says you have to do next, or what the next, thing on the list of quests in your journal is compelling you to do, right? Like, it's important to have emptiness in your life. When you have emptiness in your life, to be able to just be without any expectation of becoming anything as a result, just being, that's where the beauty of life really starts to flourish. And yeah, you could go off on a great adventure to Alaska and, you know, possibly risk your life and live without any comfort at all and, you know, do something like that. But most of us don't need to do anything so dramatic to have a good experience. Most of us can just make a point that we're going to love this moment right now. And we're going to live our life in a way that is free and open-ended and honest in a world which is filled with contrivances and white lies and politics and posturing and doing what other people want you to do instead of what you want to do, and pretending that we're not lonely when we really are, pretending that we like company when we really don't. When we live our lives sort of as a lie, and we surround ourselves with other people who live their lives in a less than honest way, less than honest to themselves, less than honest to others, that's what makes us want to escape. And maybe part of why we want to escape is because we have this feeling that we are alone, that life is lonely, that we are broken. But we also are surrounded by all sorts of things that are supposed to make our life good. And so we think to ourselves, how can I have a life that is so good and also feel so broken? When you walk away from everything, then you can have the clarity of not being surrounded by things that are supposed to make you feel whole. You can just be openly, transparently, entirely empty. And there's an elegance in that. Because if you were to compare being alone in a place where you are alone, and being alone in a place where you feel like you're surrounded by company, but they're not true companions, they're false companions. Well, at least in a place where you're truly alone, then it is what it appears to be. There is no false dichotomy there. There is no saying, well, I don't have the support network I wish I had, but I do have a bunch of people here that say they care. Just as you, in the sound of silence. But in the empty space, when there's nothing, then you can start to say, what do I want to build here? And that's also beautiful. Because you can't fill a cup that's already full. But once you get to the point where you realize it's okay to be empty, you give up everything, and then you can start again, fresh from the beginning. There's another quote that I really liked. It was by Leo Tolstoy. Anyways, he said, I have lived through much, and now I think I have found what is needed for happiness. A quiet, secluded life in the country, with the possibility of being useful to people to whom it is easy to do good, and who are not accustomed to have it done to them. Then work, which one hopes may be of some use. Then rest, nature, books, music, love for one's neighbor. Such is my idea of happiness. And then, on top of all of that, for you a mate and children perhaps. What more can the heart of a man desire? And that actually echoes the words of one of the oldest works in recorded history, which said that the source of happiness is just to essentially love your life and love your family. And that's kind of all of it in a nutshell. Like we build all these complicated things that are all about how the world will be better if we get more things, if we achieve some status. And then it all comes down to being able to hear your thoughts, being able to reflect on life, being able to love your life and to love others. That's really all there is to it. When you realize that, then you don't have to make so many decisions, because most of the decisions we make in life are actually completely worthless. They're just noise. What we really need is silence. What we really need is the ability to reflect on things. Do work that you believe in. Try to do good. Do good to others. Serve people who don't have expectations. People who need help and deserve help, but maybe would never ask for it. Don't feel like you have to fill up every minute of your life with something important or meaningful. It's okay to just have an aimless day. But also, we tend to think about how lonely we are, maybe. And so we fill up our space with things that on some level we feel will fill that gap of loneliness. But not fill it in a healthy, reflecting way. Fill it in a fake kind of a way. Like, why do you scroll on your phone so much? Like, think about this. People say, well, people scroll on their phone because they're addicted to scrolling. Well, yeah, that's kind of true, probably. But what is the root cause of it? Like, why do we do it? Why do we pull out our phone and then go to some app and start scrolling and just keep on scrolling, hoping to find something, find whatever it is we're looking for? But what are we looking for? We're looking for something. That's why we're doing it. And what we're looking for really is probably companionship. It's a message that's going to make us feel like all of life makes more sense, or that we're a little bit less alone. We're looking for a notification that's going to make us feel relevant in some way. But see, all of it boils down to the fact that the more you're scrolling, the more you probably aren't happy with your life on some level. You're probably feeling alone. And so you're compensating for it with a desire to gravitate toward those things which are marketed as a solution to loneliness, but it's a fake solution. Nobody cares about you on Facebook. Nobody cares about you on some social media platform. I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place for these things. It's completely fine if you want to go have a presence there for a purpose. But the reality is generally that's not what we're doing. Because if you were purpose-driven, you would just check it in the morning and then be done with it, right? You wouldn't be on there all the time. The reason why we go to some of these things as a habit, the reason why we let tools use us instead of us using the tools, is because there's some deficiency in our life. And instead of facing that, we go down the rabbit hole of the doom scrolling. Maybe we're lonely, and so instead of resolving that, we take a nosedive deep into politics or something. Like, I like to talk about politics sometimes. I do follow it, and I will follow it, because we do live in a world which is a political place. So yeah, sure. I was watching a video though of this guy complaining about Donald Trump and all the stuff going on, and I thought he made some pretty valid points, but then he started to go into this rant about how, you know, how upset he is and how upset he is at attitudes other people have and stuff, you know, and then he, you know, it really just became clear this is very personal to this man. That's fine. I appreciate being passionate, but then I also think about how, you know, if you're living your life, you're going about your business, you're doing the things you need to do in your life, you really shouldn't be so obsessed with things going on in the political space that you're allowing it to negatively affect your mental health. You know, like if I put money into the stock market, I'm going to care what happens in the stock market, obviously. But if I'm looking at the stock ticker every 5 minutes to see what's happening and I'm ranting and raging about it, well, that's a me problem, right? So sometimes we just need to take a few steps back and ask ourselves, like, why are we doing the things that we are doing? Why are we supporting the things we're supporting? What is our motivation for being the type of people that we are every day? Like, are we coming at life from a place of wholeness and peace, or are we coming at life from a place of loss and fear and frustration? And because we're lost and frustrated and lonely and feeling like we're not good enough and feeling like life isn't good enough, then we start to have these bad habits. We start to have poor balance in our life. And then we try to solve it by saying, oh, well, I'm going to like change my behaviors, right? Like I'm going to spend less time scrolling on my phone. I'm going to spend less time saying things that are harmful to others or about others or whatever, right? Like we find something that we think is a problem that we need to address, and then we try to address the symptom instead of the root cause. And the truth is, it's not about the thing we're doing. It's about the question of why. Why are we doing it? And sometimes we just need to take a break from all the things of the world, to let those things go, to go on a journey of soul searching and discovery. And maybe it's a long journey somewhere that we've never been before. Maybe it's leaving an old environment behind. Maybe it's making new friends. Maybe it's getting lost in a new game and going on a virtual adventure and just letting go of all of those things that you have allowed to become clouds, adding toxicity into your mind. Maybe it's spending time watching more Hallmark movies and less MSNBC. I don't know. But whatever it is, there is a part of us that knows that life is meant to be lived in the moment, not continually defined by expectations about the past and the future. When we're always looking at the past and the future, we miss out on the reality of what truly matters, which is right now. Expectation is kind of the opposite of love. You can't really love life when you have expectation, because expectation by its very nature is the suggestion that something isn't good enough, because that's why you have expectation, because you want life to be better in some way than it actually is. And when we go through life thinking things are never good enough, then that's just another way of saying that we are broken. And if you go through life thinking that you're broken all the time, Well, then if there is a moment when you can shine light, reflect light, find new paths that will bring joy into your life, well, you can't really focus on those things because you're too weighted down. It's interesting how everywhere I go, it seems like I always come back to those Stoic teachings of people like Marcus Aurelius that taught us to focus on controlling what is ours to control and letting go of the rest. And on heavily leaning toward the notion that probably we should worry less about control and understand that there isn't actually very much in life that is truly ours to control. We aren't really meant to be shaping the future exactly. We're just meant to be stewards of this moment. And in the end, no matter how much you want to say that we can change the outcome of things in the world, really, the only thing we're responsible for is the attitude we have toward the life that we've been given. So if you want to be successful in life, if you want to be free, let go of all the things that tempt you to have a bad attitude about life and embrace all of the things that give you a sense of freedom. Freedom to celebrate everything that is good about the world in which we live. Glass half full is better than glass half empty, right? In any case, as always, wherever you find yourself, good luck on your adventure. Till next time, thanks so much.